Bienvenidos a otro capítulo de Echale Podcast. Mi nombre es Jose Quintero, and today's podcast is gonna be in English. I'll be translating a little bit in Spanish para la gente que nos está escuchando a través de las redes sociales, pero quiero que apunten este número si es que llegaran a tomarse o estar involucrados en un accidente. 877-515-1115, 877-515-1115, 877-515-1115. That's the number to call if you guys are ever in an accident or have a slip and fall injury at work, because today I have my friend Alex from LA Injury Attorneys.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How's
How
everyone?
are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's very impressive.
No, thanks. Well, welcome to my little tiny studio. I'm glad that you're a part of it. And I wanted to bring you on, one, because you're my attorney. Two, because I want to make sure that my Latino community is informed when it comes to traffic accidents, when it comes to slip and falls, when it comes to Uber related, when it comes to immigration status. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that. But I always like to start the podcast asking my guests, like, what inspired you to become a lawyer? What was that moment in your life when you were like, you know what, this is what I want to dedicate myself to?
You know, growing up, my mother used to always tell me, you know, you need to be a lawyer. You have I want my son to become a lawyer. And that kind of was ingrained in me. It's funny because we would travel to the Inland Empire to visit.
That's where I'm from, Fontana.
Really? Shout out to you. So we had family in Loma Linda.
Okay.
And so we would drive out there, and we'd always pass by Laverne Law School, and she used to always say, I wish one day when you grow up, you can be a lawyer and help people and so on and so forth. And just, you know, I don't think it's been a light bulb moment for me. It was just very natural for me to become a lawyer because I like to argue. Yeah. I like to stand up for people that cannot talk for themselves. And I think that's the big deal here, is because, you know, at the end of the day, it's not about the money. Yeah. It's about helping people and changing lives. And that's what really motivates me to move forward and to do my best.
Yeah. In Spanish, the saying Echale, it's sort of like Echale ganas. What keeps you going? How do you keep putting stuff into the world? So hence why I always love to talk to entrepreneurs and people who are doing things on their own.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have a sense of purpose. And, you know, money is good. Money is but it's not everything. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you got to feel good about yourself. When you lay down at night, you need to make sure that you know in your heart that you've done something and you've helped people out. And now we've grown to such a big operation. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of you know, young people coming in, and I'm training the next generation. And it's just amazing to see that growth and to see how much they start enjoying what they're doing, because they make a big impact in people's lives. And
so I'm going to safely assume that you graduated from University of Laverne Law School?
Actually, no. I graduated from Loyola Law School, which is by the way, is a much better law school.
I went to Laverne. I'm a leopard.
Yeah, right. No, I went to, for those of you who've gone to Laverne, obviously it's a great school too, but I went actually through the night program at Loyola Law School while I worked full-time as an insurance adjuster in the insurance industry. Wow. So, yeah, my experience and my work was completely different. My experience of law school, it's not the typical, you know, kid that goes to college and then goes off to law school and daddy and mommy pay for everything. And no, it wasn't like that at all. I was working long hours during the day. I had a normal job. And then I would drive down to downtown LA, which is where the Loyola Law School is. Yeah. And I was there usually some days till 11 o'clock at night. And I'd wake up at 3:30 in the morning, do my studies, go to work, and then go to law school at night. And I did that for 4 years. And I mean, it took a toll on me, but it was funny to see how some of my colleagues that, you know, had everything given to them when it came down to the passing of the bar exam, a lot of them failed, interestingly. Yet I passed the first shot, and I got one of the best jobs that anybody in my graduating law school class got. So I was, the hard work paid off eventually.
Yes, it definitely did. And it's impressive to see, the grit that obviously working a full-time job and then, waking up at 3:30 in the morning to like study. Not that many people, can say that. And I think it gives you so much more empathy because with all other lawyers or a lot of other lawyers that I've talked to, it sort of almost seems a little like, oh, yes, I'm a lawyer. Yeah, right. This and this. And ever since I met you and talked to you, I've just noticed this aura that, like, you know what? It's a welcoming environment and it's a place where we're literally here to help. So I'm glad that it's worked out for you.
Yeah, I didn't come from money. I saw a lot of people I helped my parents out growing up. I have a lot of empathy for people who don't have a lot. Yeah. And that's never been my, he doesn't make enough money, so I can't hang out with him. Or I look at people for who they are. Yeah. And really, honestly, the best part of the day is knowing that we've made a difference in someone's life.
I'm sure that obviously being an insurance adjuster really propelled you to, what type of law, PI injury. But why did you take that job in the first place, like as an insurance adjuster? Was that what there was at the time?
Well, it's interesting because I had a background in automotive. I had right out of high school, I was working at the local Guy Schmidt Mazda wrenching on cars. And I realized very quickly that I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. And I was much better than that. As far as, the skills that I had to and I wanted to really pursue law. That was like my ultimate goal. So when I got into, school and started really getting straight A's and doing well, I was in a program through them, where you would go to school for half a semester, then you work at a dealership. So I had a lot of background in automotive experience. So for me, taking a job as an adjuster was just kind of an ideal situation because I was out in the field a lot. I could also weave into my workday some, downtime to really study for law school. So it was just very natural for me to do that.
Yeah, very serendipitous that everything occurred how it did.
It's amazing how life takes its twists and turns, but it's probably, I wouldn't change it for the world because it made me who I am today, and I appreciate every day that I'm alive and doing well and helping people. As far as the adjuster job, it was very ideal for me because I got a firsthand look at how the insurance companies want to delay things, deny claims, and really, it really bothered me to see what they were doing. They were really trying to take advantage of people, and that was a real impetus for me to want to switch and go to the other side and really fight for people that have seriously been injured and don't have proper representation or don't have a voice for themselves.
Let's go ahead and talk about that just because you did grow up in Southern California.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's huge Latino demographic. So many things are happening in today's society where immigration is such a big deal. And in your office at LA Injury Attorneys, which is here in close to Burbank, right?
Yeah, it's right in the heart of Burbank.
Yeah,
actually.
Right in the heart of Burbank. So if they ever want to come and see you, obviously I'm going to put the information in the description below, but I have to say it in Spanish because it's the only way I memorize it. 877-515-1115. Then I can translate it. That's how my mind works. 877-515-1115.
Right.
See?
We're by the Empire Center. So we're on San Fernando Road by the Empire Center. See, nowadays, especially with Trump taking office, there is a lot of buzz about are you undocumented? Do we still have rights? Do we have a case? Will they go after us? Things of that nature. It's really sad to see, and especially in my practice, because I'd say 90% of our clientele is the Hispanic market. And I always tell people, first of all, you guys are very lucky you're in the state of California. It's a sanctuary state. But other than that, there are a lot of constitutional rights that even an undocumented person has in California. The Evidence Code 315 2A specifically states that in a personal injury action, the defense cannot ask about your immigration status. Nor can they do any kind of discovery or delve into your background to see if you're undocumented or not. And this is all besides other constitutional protections you have, equal protection under the law, a right to not self-incriminate yourself. So there's really nothing to worry about unless you've committed some very violent crime and you're on some watch list. The vast majority of the population, the undocumented population, has nothing to worry about. You still have your rights in California. You can still pursue a personal injury action if you've been injured as a result of someone else's negligence. And you can also present a workers' compensation claim regardless of your citizenship status.
Oh, that's
or immigration
interesting.
status.
What are some of the mistakes that people might forget to do when involved in an accident? Because the first thing that goes to their mind is my immigration status. And I'm talking to everybody specifically who has parents who are worried about their immigration status right now, because I feel like as children of immigrants, we have that responsibility to educate our parents. If our parents understand English, that's great. But I also understand that most don't. My parents are now citizens of the United States, but they still don't know English, right?
Yeah,
like they barely, like my mom understands it a little bit more, but my dad, zero, right? Like he took his exam in Spanish and whatnot. Right. So I'm speaking to you who have parents who are of Latino descent who don't speak the language, or they maybe aren't of Latino descent. They just are from anywhere else in the world.
I think one of the big things that I see is people are scared to call the police because they're worried that, okay, now they're going to question me, and they don't. They will never do that. If they do, it's almost actionable under those situations. But a lot of people don't realize a lot of the policies are written in such a way that you have to report an accident within 24 hours. Most uninsured or uninsured motorist policies, or underinsured policies require you that immediately after an accident, you have 24 hours to report this claim. The insurance company wants to know, is this legit? Did you take that extra step to file a police report, or is this some fake claim that you're presenting to them? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people get nervous. They're like, well, I don't want to deal with the police. I don't want to deal with law enforcement. And I'm going to tell you that's in all my years of practicing, I've never heard anyone get arrested because of their immigration status.
Yeah. So
you have really nothing to worry about. Even if you don't have a license, even if you don't have it, you're still entitled to compensation.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no real law that says you even need a driver's license to drive.
How important?
For purposes of a personal injury action.
How important is it to have uninsured motorists?
It's critical nowadays because a lot of people are driving around without insurance. A lot of people can't afford it. It's the difference between, am I going to put food on my table, or am I going to have insurance to drive around? And oftentimes they pick the former because, and I get it. There's a lot of people that are driving around without any insurance. And, uninsured motorist protects you from these types of people, because I've seen a lot of people get injured severely and there's just no coverage. Yeah. And that's sad to see.
Do you see some insurance discriminations within our community?
Obviously they more in litigation when they're taking the deposition of your client, and if the client doesn't speak English and is a Spanish speaking only, they evaluate things. They want to make sure how these people are going to do in front of a jury. And so I would say there is some discrimination, but it's, it all depends on your lawyer and how he presents the facts and how hard he is willing to fight for you. Yeah. And I can honestly say when we take a case on, we take it all the way to trial. That is our goal. We want to get maximum compensation for our clients, and if the insurance company doesn't want to play ball, then a jury will hear their plight, and they will reward them with monetary damages.
Now, before we move on, because I do want to talk about accidents, personal injury law, and then obviously Uber and Lyft accidents. You talked about being an insurance adjuster, that you sometimes saw insurances not want to take full responsibility to a certain extent and pay what is deserved of the client. And just kind of going back to what's happening in today's society, health insurance companies. Have you seen that discrepancy as a lawyer in the health insurance companies? We saw the whole United Healthcare incident where there's even been doctors who have been getting calls from United Healthcare and saying like, hey, does this person really need to stay overnight?
Right.
And at that point, you as a doctor, obviously, I'm like, well, this person in this video, they just had breast cancer, and obviously they need to be observed. Yeah. But so many people are even afraid of health insurance companies.
Rightfully so. I mean, they're there for the bottom line. They are there for maximum profit. And if they see a foreign-sounding last name, invariably there is going to be some discrimination. And that's why it's very important that you have a very strong attorney that knows the laws inside and out, that can really advocate on your behalf and get you, the proper treatment that you need. And that is what we do day in and day out.
Yeah. And I'm here talking with Alex from LA Injury Attorneys. If you guys need to give him a call, 877-515-1115, 877-515-1115. All the information is going to be down below. Do you do free consultations if they need a second opinion?
Absolutely. If you have an attorney, we'd be more than happy to take a look at your file and tell you if the attorney is actually doing what they're supposed to do. Nowadays, there's a lot of attorney advertising, a lot of these big shot firms coming from other states. Mm-hmm. They're trying to get into the market share in LA. And then you go back to their website and you look at their reviews, and their reviews really are not very good or very flattering, because you're just a number to them. But here, I mean, at LA Injury Attorneys, we are all family. I mean, all the people there have been
We've
there
gone
with
to
me.
eat.
That's right. And people are there. All my staff has been there for 15, 20 years. And we know every single file. I do personal case reviews with my staff every week. In fact, after this podcast, I will be going back to the office to do a case review with one of the attorneys in one of the lit files. So we are on top of it, and we care.
Yeah.
And you're not just another number to us.
And most of your staff is all bilingual, and I love
everyone.
that. And women.
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of bilingual staff members. I have made quite a bit of difference in their lives, giving them the opportunity to grow and make a lot of money. Yeah. Because, if they are good, they get rewarded. My office manager was able to buy a home working for my office. It's funny. The first time I interviewed her, she had just graduated from Berkeley undergraduate, and she wanted to become a veterinary tech. And she came into my office and she looked. It was so funny to see her, but I knew she had potential because she was smart. And now she's my right-hand person, and we've grown the practice considerably. And she was able to get a house and raise a family, and that I take real pleasure in being able to do that.
Yeah,
and to help people around me. Especially.
I love that. Speaking of helping people around you, I feel like sometimes as Latinos, putting a claim against a company can be very intimidating, and we may even seem greedy. And I'm going to give you an example. Over 15 years ago, my mom had a slip and fall at what was known as a 99-cent store.
Which is bankrupt now.
Yeah, which is bankrupt now.
Right.
That's why I can say it, because they're not going to sponsor these videos.
Right.
Yeah. So she was afraid to even file a claim. And my dad was very much like, no, it's a big company, don't go against them. My mom, obviously being the strong Latina as she is, she's like, no, I reported it to my manager. My manager did nothing about it. And then in a week later, I was let go. Right. And that is the story of so many of our people. They have an injury at work, and you don't hear about it because they try to oh no, this is hush hush, and then 2-3 weeks later they try to get rid of you.
Yes.
And then we seem like, oh, we're being too greedy. What would you say to those?
You're not being greedy. The law is there to protect people that have been injured on the workplace, at the workplace. They cannot retaliate against you under the law, and they can get into big trouble for doing that. And you're not being greedy. You're doing what the law is designed to do, which is to compensate you for injuries that occurred on the job. A lot of people are losing limbs. A lot of people are getting, we get calls every day that I told my employer, and he said, don't worry about it. Let's just move on, this and that. And I'm in a lot of pain. I can't get up in the morning to go to work. And I have to say the California workers' compensation laws are very, very pro-employee. So if you've been injured at your work, you need to call us and you need to get representation right away. It's not about being greedy. It's about documenting your injuries properly and getting what you deserve. There's insurance for that. You're not suing the employer directly. I mean, you are technically, but the insurance companies are paid a lot of money to cover these types of claims. Yeah. And you're not really going after the employer. You're going after the insurance policy, per se.
Now, another example, I feel like everything happens with, like, in family. My brother, he backed up, obviously, years ago. And this tends to happen with younger people as well. He backed up out of a grocery store, and then a lady backed up, from a grocery store as well. And they mutually hit each other.
Right.
Obviously, he said, like, I told him, contact the lawyer, et cetera, because there was damage to your car, not necessarily to his. To hers. Right. But he took partial, fault in this. Is there any compensation if you admit to being partially at fault?
Well, one thing you should never do after an accident or immediately after the accident is to say, I'm sorry, it was my fault, because that is a exception to the hearsay rule. It's an evidence. It's an exception in the evidence code. So that statement can actually be used against you in a court of law. So, saying, I'm sorry this happened, that's okay. But to say that I'm sorry it was my fault or I was partially at fault, you want to stay away from saying stuff like that. I have to say, though, those parking lot accidents nowadays, oftentimes because of now the new technology, the backup cameras and the GoPros and stuff, I've seen a lot of that go away because it's then becomes very clear whose fault it is when you have video documentation. So I always encourage people, have a GoPro, have something on your dash or something in the back, to just keep track of what's happening, because you're driving all along and chances are you are going to get into an accident.
Oh my God. Don't tell me that. I drive a lot.
I know. It's one of those unfortunate, but it's a good thing. And sometimes the GoPro can work to your disadvantage too. Yeah. It's like the MTA. We have a lot of bus accident cases, and surprisingly, when it's really their fault and the video somehow that they have on board their buses disappears.
Yeah. Is it true? Because I'm obviously talking about all these myths because I want people to be informed. So many people think lawyers aren't going to take my case. I don't think there's a lot of money in it for them. Right. Do you think, what is your experience, or what would you say to those people who think lawyers won't take their case because there's no big payout?
That's not true. We obviously have to look and we have to see if, like, for example, in a typical car accident, we need to make sure that there's enough damage to the vehicle so that there's enough G-forces to the occupants of the vehicle to warrant an actual injury. If you've got just scratches on a bumper, it's a hard sell to the insurance company that someone was injured, especially with the technology we have on the cars today, airbags, things of that nature. But if you've been involved in a really, something that's even minor impact that's caused, it all depends. It's very fact specific. So I always say to people, it doesn't hurt to call your lawyer and just ask them, is this something you'd like to take? Oftentimes I'll take cases where there's little or no money to be made, but I just want to help my existing clients out, and I want to generate goodwill for future referrals. So I try and help whoever calls me at the office, at least guide them in the right direction. If they need me to do something, I will do it for them.
No, and I believe that to be true because you've been kind and gracious every time we've gone to your office. So I know that's for a fact. If you're looking for a personal injury attorney that is there for you,
absolutely,
Alex is definitely your guy. Speaking about PIs and injury attorneys, obviously there's so many in SoCal, so many across the nation. What are some red flags that people should be looking out? Because I know there's so many great attorneys,
yes,
but there's so many predator attorneys.
Yeah. So unfortunately, especially in the last, I think 2-3 years, we've seen again a lot of out-of-state law firms coming into LA, trying to take advantage of the market share. And what I would tell people is check the reviews, get online, do some research. Don't just look at an ad on TV and think, oh, just because they're on TV, they're the best or they're the greatest, because that's not always the case. Mm-hmm. You see people advertising on TV, and then you go into their reviews and you hear horrible stories of what happened, because you're basically just a number to them at that point. Mm-hmm. You know, if a firm is getting thousands and thousands of cases coming in, do you think they're going to really spend enough time on your file and to really know you, or take the time to really meet with you if necessary? I always tell people, I am available. I'm your lawyer. I'm available 24 hours a day. You tell me when you want to come to my office. Yeah. I'm there. A lot of people don't take advantage of that. But so
we're in holiday recording this. So.
Right. I'm here because I'm vested. We're on a holiday, and I'm here doing a podcast. Basically, the reviews are very important. The reputation of the firm is very, very important. You know, I have long-standing relationships with a lot of my existing clientels, and a lot of the people refer a lot of cases to me because they know that we care. And that's the culture in the office.
What about those insurance companies, or what should people do if the insurance companies refuses to pay them or denies them, their claim? Or
well,
delay?
This is the one thing that I tell people is, delay is never a good thing in personal injury. Waiting more than a day or two after an accident to speak to an attorney really prejudices your rights. Just because witnesses are not available after the first couple of days, video footage of the incident disappears. A lot of these DVRs are get recorded over, and so evidence, locking down evidence immediately following the accident is really key. We have. Yeah. So what I do is when we get a case coming in, we identify any potential evidence that we could gather, and I have a staff of investigators that go and take witness statements and go to the businesses and make sure that we capture the video surveillance footage. So it's never a good idea to wait after an accident.
Okay, so before we continue, because I want to now talk about Uber and Lyft, yes. Please write down his number if you are in an accident, or if you know somebody who is in an accident. Save it on your contacts. Alex, LA Injury Attorneys, 877-515-1115. 877-515-1115. Said it in both languages. It'll also be in the description of this podcast and his Instagram, but that's the number to save. What encompasses a PI attorney's job? Like, because I probably think of accidents, but I didn't realize until a couple years ago slip and falls constitute as a in your realm, like that. They could what services could they potentially call you for?
So a personal injury attorney handles any type of case where someone's negligence caused injury to a person. So slip and falls, bus accident cases, dog bites, Uber and Lyft accidents, rideshare accidents, amusement park accidents where someone is injured on a ride because the maintenance crew did something wrong. The trucking accidents. We get a lot of tractor trailer accidents where people are severely injured. And obviously, besides that, we also do workers' compensation. So if you're injured on the job, we can help you and assist you with that. And you mentioned Uber and Lyft a little while ago. This is a very specific area of the law, and only because, especially in California, this issue is being heavily litigated as we speak. A few years ago, Proposition 22 passed, which basically made Uber and Lyft employees independent contractors. So when they became independent contractors, basically they no longer were eligible for workers' compensation benefits because they're considered independent contractors. That's in the work comp arena.
Wow.
Okay, so Uber, Lyft, some of those rideshare companies do have accidental occupation insurance, but that is a very, very minor coverage that they provide for their employees, per se, and it doesn't encompass what workers' compensation law is in the state of California. For example, you're not entitled to disability benefits under the accidental occupational insurance through Uber or Lyft. So it's very important that if you've ever been injured to let us know. On the third-party liability side, which is when someone gets into an accident in a Uber vehicle or driving an Uber, there are several classifications, and depending on whether the Uber driver was just driving around and got into an accident, or whether he had a passenger in the vehicle and on their platform and got into an accident, it's like a tiered system of coverage. And so if you deal with someone that doesn't really understand this area of law and the nuances of Uber and Lyft cases, they can really steer you in the wrong direction.
Okay, so
very critical to get a good attorney.
Who's at fault if I'm in an Uber and the Uber gets in an accident? Who am I suing? Am I suing the driver? Do I even have coverage, or am I suing Uber and Lyft?
So in these situations, when depends on who was at fault for the accident to begin with. So if, let's say, the Uber driver was at fault for the accident, then you sue the Uber driver per se.
Wow.
And the company. But if it's the other third-party insurance, or the other party was at fault, then you go after the other party's insurance. There have been situations. I had a situation where my client was an Uber driver, and she was involved in an accident but did not have a passenger with her. And so Uber denied all of her benefits because she was in a very specific class. She was on the platform, but she did not have a passenger with her, and so they denied benefits, and the law is very clear in that situation.
So if she would have had a passenger,
there would have been coverage.
Oh my God!
Because she didn't have a passenger, they denied coverage, and there was a lot of medical bills.
And what about her insurance?
She didn't have any insurance independent of Uber in that situation. So, and I don't remember at this point now if she did or not, but even if she did, it was minimal compared to what her medical bills were at that point. So,
what about if somebody would have hit her? Was that the case that happened?
Someone did hit her.
Oh, okay.
But there was but because she was in she didn't have a passenger in the vehicle, there was no coverage for her, and her personal insurance would follow at this point, and she didn't have uninsured motorist under her insurance policy.
Yeah.
So there was no coverage. It's a gray area. This is something that I've been in touch with some of the leading people that are advocating at the state legislature to pass laws or to have certain things to cover these types of people, because it's such a gray area. It's like the Wild West of when we're dealing with Uber and Lyft and rideshare law in California right now.
So let's talk about, we're going to continue to talk about Uber and Lyft, but what about these rideshares that now are without anybody, like Waymo and possibly Tesla in the future?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. This is a gray area, and they do have insurance for Waymo and things of that nature, but it'll come down to who was at fault for the accident. And we're seeing a lot of these AI features coming in, and I read something about the Waymo was like circling around in
Yeah.
the parking lot, making people dizzy. I mean, obviously that person that was stuck in the Waymo has a cause of action against the company for basically producing,
Nausea.
yeah, faulty, yeah.
Yeah.
He can claim injuries because, through no fault of his own. I mean, for me, someone like me that like has panic attacks in these situations, I would go crazy, So it's another point. The law is interesting because if you're, let's say, an eggshell plaintiff, if you have something that is pre-existing and someone causes a greater like injury to you, then you can also sue for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
interesting.
all of the complications coming from your pre-existing issues is potentially the person that caused the accident is liable for.
Yeah. What happened? Okay. What should somebody like that's in a rideshare app or application, if they're involved in an accident, what should the first thing that they do?
First thing they should do is contact the police.
Okay.
You need to call the police, and a lot of people call 911. And 911 goes to the California Highway Patrol. So if you're on a surface street or in a parking lot and you're dialing 911, the 911 operator has to then dispatch a local police officer or law enforcement agency to then come. So it takes forever for that to happen. If you're on the freeway calling 911, that's fine. That's within their jurisdiction. But if you're on in a city like, for example, Fontana or something, calling 911, there's going to be a delay by the time they get a local law enforcement officer to come there, especially now.
Wow.
Yeah, so you should always know where you are, and if you've been involved in an accident, with our smartphones nowadays, you can look up the local police station and report it right away. And obviously, I always tell people now we have cameras, we have video cameras. Take good video of everything, every angle of the vehicle, the position of your vehicle relative to the other vehicle. If you can, get the license plate number.
Yeah.
And if they need to cooperate, that is the law that the person has to provide their documentation to them. So at least get a driver's license. Oftentimes we have cases where people will get involved in a hit and run case, or the person will stop with their vehicle after an accident and then take off.
Yeah.
And the client is without any recourse at that point.
Yeah.
So always get a license plate
What
number.
happens in that case? Because there's so many cases like that.
Really, the person that got injured is out of luck because.
So the best case scenario would be uninsured motorists.
Yeah, but that doesn't apply in a lot of situations. For example, if the guy is like riding a bicycle, I have a lot of clients that they use a bicycle as a form of transportation. So if they get hit with a car and there's no identification of the car, then these people are left severely injured and no insurance to go after.
Wow.
So, and a lot of people don't understand or don't know that. You need to make sure you immediately gather all your evidence right away at the scene.
Wow. What are some ways that social media can have a negative or a positive effect with personal injury or accidents?
That's a fantastic question because, in fact, at our law firm, as soon as we sign up a case, a courtesy letter goes out to them stating that anything that you post on social media will be used against you by the defense. They have very expensive investigators that go on to Instagram, Facebook, all of the platforms, and they do a profile on you. And, I've had many situations where people are like, I was at my, the people that are claiming injuries and say, I was at a wedding and it was my son's wedding and I got up on a chair and I got excited, but I was in a lot of pain afterwards. Well, guess what? You're posting that online. The defense is seeing that, and you're claiming that you can't bend over, you can't do certain things, and here you are on a chair dancing. It's just your case is done at that point, and a lot of people don't really understand that. And I have to tell people, and I have a lot of athletes that are injured. I belong to a local gym here. And a lot of these guys are doing jiu-jitsu and doing all these things, and it's very normal for these guys to like post, hey, I did this move, I did that move, but whatever you're posting online, the insurance company is watching.
I think what you've told us today definitely sheds a light on the importance of documentation, the importance of having a good personal injury attorney. Like I've always recommended Alex, for years now on my social media, but definitely get his number. I will leave it in the description below. But is there anything else that people should be aware of when it comes to personal injury?
Yes. I'll give you one key point that I see a lot nowadays. A lot of people are desperate for money, quick money. And these insurance companies love to exploit that. They will knock on your door. They'll offer you $300, $400 or $500. Lately, I've seen them even go up to like $1,000 or $1,500, and they make you sign a release at your doorstep. And then a week or 2 weeks later, when the pain really hits you, you realize, oh my God, I'm in really serious pain. And I get that a lot. I have clients coming into me that are seriously injured that signed a release. On the insurance side, it's called first party contact, and they really are pushing first party contact settlements. And
what does that mean?
Okay, so that means that the first time they get in touch with a claimant, they offer them, they throw this money out. Hey, how about $500? Do you think that'll, And a lot of people are desperate right now, and they'll sign away their rights. And once you sign that right, there's a code section, civil code section. You waive your rights, all your future rights thereafter. And people don't know that, and they sign away, they get the check, or even if they sign it and don't cash the check. I've had people come to us after signing it and getting a check in hand and not cashing it. It's too late. You signed your release. You waived your rights forever for this accident. Wow. So just be aware of all of that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex from LA Injury Attorneys. If you need an attorney, or if you're involved in an accident, know somebody who's involved in an accident, please call Alex from LA Injury Attorneys, 877-515-1115, 877-515-1115. That's the number to call. Alex, where can people find you on social media, just in case?
We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Our website is lainjuryattorneys.com. We have a lot of information there. You can do a website submission. I get it personally. When you put in your information and the facts of the accident, it comes straight to me. I take a look at it. My staff is there, and we review it right away, and we will be in touch with you immediately.
Thank you so much.
My
Alex
pleasure.
From LA Injury Attorneys.
Thank you so much for your time.